Well, 2022 was a rather good year for fossil fuel companies, with revenues soaring due to higher prices. A report by the International Energy Agency shows net income of the global oil and gas industry reached a record high of $4 trillion last year. By the way, that's more than double the previous year. More than half of that income was used to pay down debt and boost shareholder returns, as you can see by all of the graphics. The money invested in fossil fuels is going down as a proportion of total spending, but very little is being invested in clean, green energy. Have a look at that little green block on the top of all of those blocks. You can see, you can barely see it, can't you? There's been a slight increase in recent years. Let's talk to Dave Jones, Global Insights lead from the energy think tank Ember. Dave, welcome. For fuel suppliers, what are the reasons behind the drop in traditional oil and gas supply investments?
Bluntly, it's because clean energy is investment is taking over. So what we've seen with that clean investment is stepping up to 1.7 trillion this year, and is one of the best examples to be able to just show how quick that transition's happened is around how solar has now overtaken oil investment. So just 10 years ago, solar investment was 1/6 of what oil investment was. And in 2023, solar will have eclipsed what was invested in oil.
Well, the solar story is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, you know, solar investment set to outstrip spending on oil production this year for the first time. What does that mean for the global energy transition to green?
What it means is there's going to be a lot more solar electricity than I think most people thought there was going to be. It has enormous repercussions for planning, for land use, and it's a level that governments weren't really expecting. So it's great news in itself. Governments have got to wake up to what that means. Grid companies have got to wake up to what that means to get the planning side sorted and that can actually bring on this amount. But what it means in total is that influx of clean energy, that extra clean energy into the system, it's not going to increase the overall demand for energy in total. What it's going to do is displace faster that need for fossil energy. So 2022 was a great year, like you said in the introduction, for fossil energy companies. That situation will change pretty quickly as we go through this decade.
I mean, you're suggesting that governments and companies are almost scrambling to catch up. I mean, do you see this as a challenge?
The whole of the energy transition is just happening so much faster than people suspected. So in this report from the IEA, they were tracking not just solar, not just clean electricity, but the whole of clean energy investment, which extends into electric vehicles and other technologies. And whichever side you look at, whichever metric you look at, change is happening faster than most people thought it was going to. And in part, that's because countries are starting to take 1.5 degrees seriously and actually implementing some of the policies that will help them meet the net zero pledges that so many governments made a few years ago. And it also reflects a kind of new technologies coming along as well. So the IEA were highlighting, obviously, that big increase in solar, but also big increases in new technologies that will come around. So, for example, on hydrogen and CCS, that they say will start to take off in the coming years.
I'm guessing things like the instability around Ukraine, COVID, economic recession all play their part. But I wonder which factors are driving the rise in renewable energy investments altogether.
Yeah, I mean, certainly across the world, but especially here in Europe, that response to the energy crisis last year was just so unbelievably quick when the war first kicked off in February, then in March. In April, you already have governments coming out immediately with more ambitions on doing what's worked well for them so far. And what's worked well for them so far is to accelerate that rollout of clean electricity, and specifically of wind and solar, which have now supply more electricity between them in Europe than not just coal generation, but gas generation as well. So that transition's really coming along. And in context of solar and what it means on solar, so much of that is being driven by citizens actually wanting it and putting it on roofs themselves within their own houses. So you can actually see this isn't just a kind of a top-down mandate from governments about achieving net zero targets. This is a genuine interest in the public by the energy transition, by the energy crisis in themselves, and this is their way of doing something. And that's really nice to see, and a real change, I think, that's really noticeable over the last 12 months.
Dave, good to see you. Thanks for coming on the programme. Thanks for your time. Dave Jones, Global Insights Lead from the energy think tank Ember.